Sunlight streamed through the colorful banners, spilling across the festival streets. All eyes turned toward them as Cyrus and Grace walked side by side, like figures out of a painting. The onlookers murmured in admiration, Lord Cyrus and Lady Grace. They really are a match made in heaven. Whispers spread through the crowd. Come to think of it, his former wife, Lady Raphilia, was just an ordinary person without abilities. They still never found her after she disappeared, right? I heard she ran off with another man. Really? If someone is missing for 3 full years, the divorce becomes valid, doesn't it? Then there's only half a year left. After that, he'll probably remarry Lady Grace. That would be wonderful. Raphilia held the brim of her hat, her fingertips tightening slightly. Thank goodness. They both look happy. I didn't repeat the mistake of my first life. A small hand gently tugged at her sleeve. Manhwa. Raphilia came back to herself and looked down. Alan lifted his little face and asked curiously, "Who is that man?" Raphilia smiled softly. "That is Lord Cyrus. He may very well become the next king." Alan's eyes lit up at once. A king? That's amazing. Raphilia gazed into the distance. Lord Cyrus is alive. I'm alive too. And in the end, he ended up with the person he was destined for. The figures of Cyrus and Grace gradually grew farther away, disappearing into the sea of flowers. I really felt relieved. At least, that's what I thought. Cyrus's cold gaze came stabbing toward her. "Do you have any idea how hard I've searched for you?" Raphilia's whole body stiffened. "What?" The two of them stood facing each other among the flowers, while Alan stood between them, at a complete loss. Panic seized Raphilia, and she quickly pulled Alan behind her. "You must have mistaken me for someone else. Why would he come looking for me?" My first life was utterly miserable. Cyrus knelt on one knee and kissed the back of Raphilia's hand. It was a grand wedding, but as an ordinary woman with no abilities, I endured years of loneliness and distance. Cyrus and Raphilia stood back to back, like total strangers. A hollow marriage, married to a husband whose heart belonged to someone else. Cyrus helped Grace into a luxurious carriage. Then Raphilia ran toward a door. A guard reached out to stop her. "My lady, you cannot enter." She shoved the guard aside and burst into the room. Cyrus lay there silently, while Grace clung to him in utter grief. Lord Cyrus, Lord Cyrus." Raphilia froze in place, her lips trembling. "My husband died suddenly." An official wearing glasses unfolded a report. Indeed, the results show that the deceased had belamist grass toxin in his body. Every eye turned toward Raphilia. Her whole body went cold. A noble woman glared furiously. It must have been Raphilia. She knew about herbs. She pointed at Raphilia and accused her outright. "She's the murderer." "No." Raphilia shook her head desperately. "That's not true." Guards seized her from behind and dragged her away. No one was willing to help me. I was framed as the culprit and sentenced to hang. The outline of the gallows stood clear before me. What was my life, really? If only I could have lived like that. Opening the little apothecary I'd always dreamed of in some small town, spending my days helping people. The rope was cold and rough around my neck. If I could be reborn, I want to live freely as myself, as someone who could save others. My body dropped all at once, and my consciousness shattered. Raphilia suddenly opened her eyes. She had returned to the day of her wedding. Cyrus was kissing the back of her hand. "H.M., what?" The priest declared solemnly, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Lord Cyrus is alive. I should have died too. Why? Why am I still here?" Her thoughts blurred, and her body felt strangely light. But I know this scene. Yes. Raphilia and Cyrus walked side by side down the corridor, while the applause of the guests sounded distant and vague. Somehow, I had returned to 2 years earlier. Lord Cyrus was alive, and I was alive too. Everything was exactly the same as before. There was no doubt about it. Cyrus sat on the other side of the room, his eyes cold. "This marriage only needs to exist in name." He continued icily, "I married you. Not only for the Liddell family's overseas connections. For influence. Nothing more." Raphilia stayed silent. Cyrus went on, "And I don't need children, either." I remember those words. When I heard them the first time, they pierced me to the core. "Tonight we will share a bed. Starting tomorrow, we sleep separately. To maintain appearances, I will come to this room once a week. We won't do anything." He already had the woman he truly loved, Lady Grace. It was unbelievable, but I really had returned to the past. Back to that obedient, stifling past. Back to that unbearably dull married life. Cyrus's voice cut through sharply. "Are you listening? Well, answer me." "That's right. If I've gone back 2 years, then I need to use this chance well." Raphilia lifted her head, determination shining in her eyes. "I'm going to stop Lord Cyrus from being assassinated, and then I'll divorce him. That way, no one will die. The two of them can be happy. Most importantly, I'll regain my freedom." Raphilia clasped her hands together, her eyes full of hope. I understand. Yes, this plan should have worked. It should have. According to the autopsy report, the cause of death was Bellamist grass. I've heard that name before. Back then, I was obsessed with herbs and buried myself in botanical encyclopedias all day. That was why the queen suspected me. I was born into a wealthy merchant family, surrounded by rare medicinal plants and expensive books. I loved going on walks to look for plants and study how to blend them. Found it. This is it. So it belongs to the same family. This is Lyra mist grass, an herb in the same group. It has similar toxicity, but only 1/50th the potency of Bellamist grass. It isn't used as a poison, but as medicine, famous for relieving fatigue and helping with sleep. Oh, if that's the case, it can stimulate the immune system. It might help create antibodies against Bellamist grass. A maid entered the room. My lady, regarding tonight's dinner. The maid reported respectfully, Lord Cyrus is busy with official duties, so he won't be able to dine with you tonight. Raphilia replied calmly, I understand. Thank you. Could you send my meal here later instead? Of course. At first, they would still come tell me things like this. But later, they stopped even bothering to inform me. Other than at formal events, I always ate alone. Raphilia closed the book and stretched. Maybe I'll go out for a walk. The maid answered, then we'll clean the room while you're out. All right, thank you. Raphilia stepped out of her room. The greenery here is so lovely. I think I'll take a walk in the garden. The maids whispered among themselves in the corridor, their gazes prickling against her. 2 years ago, even this kind of thing used to hurt me. Now I've gotten used to it, even if I'm not an ability user. A person with no power had married into the royal family, while Cyrus was Mystoria's second prince, the royal family's elite, a top-tier gifted one. In this country, there are 3 kinds of people: high-ranking ability users, and non-users. Those with abilities are born with power and are classified based on its strength and nature. The royal family and the nobility marry ability users generation after generation to preserve their bloodlines. Why was someone as useless as me allowed to marry into the family? At first, I wondered if maybe Lord Cyrus had fallen in love with me at first sight. I even dared to hope for love. But this marriage only needed to exist in form. Cyrus sat by the window with his arms crossed. We don't need children, either. Those words had shattered me. It was only this morning. The morning sun streamed through the window. Raphilia and Cyrus lay in bed, far apart from each other. Raphilia jolted awake and found herself staring at Cyrus's sleeping face. Cyrus opened his eyes. His voice was icy. If you're awake, leave. Raphilia immediately sat up. I understand. What he wanted was overseas connections. Nothing more. That's why he married an abilityless woman like me. That's why he never wanted children. Her parents' voices echoed in her mind. You're a powerless girl. Being able to marry such an exceptional man is your good fortune. Curiosity and honesty are fine, but don't talk back. Live quietly as a member of the royal family. Know your place and keep silent. Father, mother, I did exactly as you told me. And in the end, I never felt loved. I was framed and died alone. So please forgive me. This time, I swear I won't bring any harm to the Liddell family. Raphilia suddenly came back to herself. She saw the one who had pushed her toward death. That woman. If anyone knew about plants, it had to be her. Raphilia stepped forward. Good day, Prince Elliot. Your Majesty the Queen. The Queen half covered her face with a fan. Oh, and who might you be? She had clearly attended the wedding. In my previous life, those same words crushed me too. Raphilia lifted her skirt in a curtsy. Pardon my boldness. My name is Raphilia. I became Lord Cyrus's wife just yesterday. I am still inexperienced, so I hope for your guidance. The Queen gave a light laugh. Oh, then allow me as an apology. She tapped a plant lightly with her finger, and it began to grow from thin air, glowing faintly. An ability. Raphilia's pupil shrank. The queen's eyes were full of contempt, a faint sneer on her lips. She shoved the flower into Raphilia's hand. A plain flower like this suits you. Then she turned and walked away. Farewell, flaunting her power so openly. Prince Elliot hadn't even responded to my greeting. He was completely under his mother's control. Raphilia watched the backs of mother and son as they walked away. She lifted a hand to shield her eyes from the sun. Oh, that went badly. The sun is so harsh today. I need a hat. I should go back and get it. Raphilia turned around and heard maids talking behind a door. Tell me, who do you want to become king? Lord Cyrus or Lord Elliot? Raphilia stopped and quietly listened from beside the door. I think everyone would pick Lord Cyrus. No offense, but Lord Elliot lacks charisma. It's hard to be drawn to him. Raphilia shut her eyes, her expression pained. Then Cyrus suddenly appeared. What are you whispering about? Raphilia turned pale in panic. Lord Cyrus. No, huh? Her mind went blank. Right, I remember what happens next. But the maids' voices carried on from behind the door. Officially, the crown prince is Prince Elliot, right? That's right. But there are rumors the king plans to change the law and pass the throne to Lord Cyrus. That's why the queen has been so irritable lately. This is bad. Fear seized Raphilia's thoughts. If this continues, it'll happen just like the first time. Cyrus's voice turned ice cold. There is no place in this castle for people who chatter thoughtlessly. He opened the door and ordered the maids, get out. The maids covered their mouths in terror, no longer daring to gossip carelessly. I see. To the queen, Lord Cyrus wasn't even her own son. Raphilia suddenly spoke up. You too. Her voice turned sharp. Spreading rumors is deeply disrespectful to the royal family. You lack the dignity expected of castle staff. You never know who may be listening. Mind yourselves. I'll let this go this time, but next time you'll be dismissed. Pull yourselves together. Do you understand? Answer me. The maids trembled as they replied, Why yes, my lady. We're terribly sorry. They bowed in apology and hurried away. Raphilia let out a breath. Good. I'll warn them first, so they got to keep their jobs. But when she turned around, Cyrus was standing right behind her, arms crossed, staring at her expressionlessly. Aha, this is awkward. And no, right? My hut. Raphilia ate alone. Her knife and fork lightly touched the plate. The food was delicious, but eating alone always made it feel tasteless. Ever since that day, everyone in the castle had been walking on eggshells. I wish I had someone I could talk to freely. Just kidding. I'm planning to divorce and leave this place anyway. So it doesn't matter. That's right. I need to solidify my divorce plan. Raphilia's eyes moved toward the maid. Wait, she speared a piece of meat, then froze with the fork halfway up. Wasn't I kidnapped in my previous life? Yes, I remember now. It was about a year and a half after the wedding. Lord Cyrus's subordinates rescued me safely. But if I use that commotion as cover, maybe I could stage a disappearance. Under this country's laws, after being missing for 3 years, the divorce takes effect. If I can escape and hide for 3 years, the divorce will happen naturally. A maid brought her a cup of tea. Thank you. Raphilia took a sip. Oh, this is delicious, right? Belamis grass, the poisonous herb that caused Lord Cyrus's death. But if I brew tea from Lyra mist, which is only 1/50th as toxic, and have Lord Cyrus drink it regularly, he'll recover from fatigue while also building resistance to the toxin. It's the perfect solution. The only problem is that herb grows in. Cyrus looked up. The silent forest? Raphilia smiled and nodded. Yes, there's an herb there I'd like to use for tea. Cyrus refused without hesitation. No, Raphilia's smile stiffened. He explained, there are reports that monsters have appeared in that forest. Standing before the table, Raphilia spoke earnestly. But it's very effective for relieving fatigue. I think it would suit you well, Lord Cyrus. And I've heard you like tea. A red-haired man leaned towards Cyrus and whispered in his ear. He turned to Raphilia, a teasing smile on his face. Why not let her go? What do you think? La Lady Ra, Lord Owen. He was Lord Cyrus's childhood friend and also commander of the Royal Knights. He often visited Cyrus's chambers like this, at least until that incident happened. Cyrus looked toward Raphilia. I'm about to attend a state meeting. I can't escort her. Raphilia spoke up. Then perhaps he could escort me? Owen smiled confidently, a hand over his chest. After all, I am the commander of the knights. They set off. Owen walked ahead, Raphilia following behind, as they made their way through the silent forest. He looked back with a smile. You really do love plants, don't you? Raphilia nodded. Yes. I barely had any contact with Lord Owen before. I had no idea he was this kind. In my previous life, Lord Owen died in that plague. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a mild cold. But once the high fever struck, it never went down again. A rash spread across the entire body. Once it covered the whole body, the victim was completely exhausted, and death soon followed. Before a cure was found, hundreds of people died from it. Lord Owen was one of them. If only it could have appeared earlier. Lord Owen could have. Raphilia suddenly stopped walking. Owen noticed a change in her and turned around with concern. What's wrong, Rafi? Are you feeling unwell? This is it. A flash of light crossed Raphilia's eyes. I know the specific herb needed for the cure, and I know how to prepare it. If I remember correctly, there's still about 3 months until the plague breaks out. If I can prepare the medicine before then, I can save him. Raphilia clasped her hands together, hope rising in her eyes. Lord Owen. Owen looked at her in confusion. HM, what is it? Owen's gaze sharpened as he scanned the surroundings warily. He quickly moved Raphilia behind him and drew his sword. A rustling sound drew closer and closer. A huge beast emerged from the shadows. Raphilia gasped. A monster. Owen didn't falter. Golden flames flared from his blade. He swung, and the fire tore through the air. The creature let out a shriek, then turned and fled. Owen sheathed his sword, and the flames disappeared with it. Raphilia stood behind him, completely unharmed. Owen turned to face her, an apologetic smile on his face. "Are you all right?" "Sorry, I moved so suddenly." Raphilia shook her head. "No, thank you very much. It's my first time seeing fire abilities up close. I've never even seen Lord Cyrus's powers." Owen explained, since childhood, he suffered from curses and confinement. Curses? Confinement? Raphilia looked utterly puzzled. Owen noticed her confusion. "No one told you?" He then waved a hand. "Sorry, forget I said anything." Raphilia stopped in place. Lost in thought, she hurried over to a patch of grass. "I found it, Lord Owen. It's here." Raphilia cried excitedly. "This is the herb I've been searching for." Owen looked at her, genuinely pleased. "I see." Raphilia held the pink medicinal plant tightly in her hands. "Now I can brew tea for Lord Cyrus." Owen watched her quietly, a trace of complicated emotion passing through his eyes. Cyrus really is a lucky man. Raphilia stood in the greenhouse, sunlight pouring down through the glass dome. "Are we really having tea here?" Cyrus looked at her. "If you don't like it, we can go somewhere else." Raphilia quickly waved her hands. "No, it's perfect. I've always wanted to see this place. I only invited him for tea so he would drink the Lyra mist. I never expected him to bring me to the greenhouse. In my previous life, I could only admire it from afar. I'm really so happy." Cyrus lifted his teacup. "Owen said you like plants, so I chose the greenhouse." He hadn't expected her to be this delighted. She asked softly, "How does it taste?" Cyrus closed his eyes as he sampled it. It's light and refreshing. It's easy to drink." "Good." Raphilia sighed inwardly. "As long as he keeps drinking it, that he'll build immunity." Even so, this man really has no desire to make conversation at all. The old me would have stayed quiet and obedient, just as my parents taught me. Raphilia gathered her courage. "Lord Cyrus." She looked directly at him. "This may be a little presumptuous, but I have a question." Cyrus set down his teacup. "What is it?" "About the report on the water pollution in the western region." Cyrus's brow twitched. I heard that harmful wastewater from the mines is being discharged without treatment, contaminating the water supply. Drinking water is already scarce to begin with. If this is left unchecked, the plague that took Lord Owen's life began in the western region. Water contamination was the main reason it spread. I have to do whatever I can to stop it. So regarding the West and the aging water systems in other regions as well, I'd like to hear what your plans are for the future. When he didn't respond, Raphilia spoke softly again. "Lord Cyrus?" Cyrus came back to himself. It's nothing." Cyrus took another sip of tea. "I was just surprised because I happen to be looking into that issue as well. Water is the source of life. I think the plan needs to move forward immediately. That said, you really are well informed." Raphilia blinked lightly. "What?" Cyrus's gaze sharpened. "That day, when the maids were gossiping, you showed no reaction at all. It was as if you already knew everything." "No." Raphilia turned her face aside. "At the time, I simply felt that rumors shouldn't be discussed before the facts were clear." Cyrus replied firmly. "Those rumors were all true, weren't they?" Raphilia answered softly. Cyrus continued. "The issue of succession concerns your possibility of becoming queen. Does that not matter to you? I'm going to divorce him eventually anyway." Raphilia closed her eyes and gave a faint, relieved smile. "It doesn't matter to me. I only pray that this country becomes a better place." Cyrus stared at her. "You're a difficult person to understand. I've never met a woman like you. I never imagined I would be able to speak so calmly with Lord Cyrus in the greenhouse. Maybe I should be more proactive. If I were, would our married life have?" A voice interrupted Raphilia's thoughts. "Lord Cyrus, so this is where you were?" "No." Raphilia's fantasy shattered instantly. "As long as this woman is here, nothing will change." Even the flowers in the greenhouse seemed to lose their color. "Lady Grace." "Lady Raphilia, we were in the middle of a conversation." "Please forgive me," said Grace. Cyrus asked coldly, "What is it?" Grace answered, "It's regarding Lord Cyrus. There are some things I wish to discuss with you." Lady Grace could enter the greenhouse freely. Raphilia thought, "Well, that's hardly surprising." Grace went on, "This isn't the right place to talk." Cyrus glanced at Raphilia, then said to Grace, "All right." Cyrus rose to his feet. "Lady Raphilia, forgive us for cutting this short." Raphilia smiled. "It's fine. Please go ahead." Grace looked at Cyrus with a winner smile. A handsome man and a beautiful woman. Truly a perfect match. They walked away side by side, their backs as flawless as a painting. Raphilia lifted her teacup. "No need to whisper. Everything is going according to my plan. The two of you will end up together. So don't worry. Let's all be happy." The carriage rattled along a forest road. Raphilia looked out the window. Is it really all right for me to come with you? Cyrus replied evenly, it's fine. You don't need to ask again. I never thought I'd get to accompany him on an inspection of the western region. It seems speaking up really does help. Cyrus noticed her gaze. What is it? Raphilia quickly shook her head. Nothing. She lowered her eyes. I just didn't expect him to act so quickly because of what I said. I'm just happy. Cyrus looked grave. The water contamination is more serious than I imagined. It doesn't just inconvenience daily life. It also affects health, livestock, and crops. We must solve this immediately. A local official came forward to greet them. Thank you so much. I submitted a request, but I never expected you to inspect the area personally. I am sincerely grateful. That's good. Raphilia stared at Cyrus's back. As long as the water source problem is fixed, then even if the plague breaks out, we'll still be able to provide clean treatment. All that's left is the apothecary doorbell chimed. An elderly pharmacist came out with a smile. Welcome, Lady Raphilia. Raphilia gave a small nod. Thank you for listening to our concerns earlier. The pharmacist waved a hand. No, I should be thanking you. If you don't mind. Raphilia handed over the basket she was carrying. This herb isn't widely known yet, but it has strong antibacterial properties. It's already being used in other countries. It has no side effects, works well, and grows quickly. It shouldn't be hard to cultivate. Please make good use of it. The pharmacist stared at the basket in shock. What? Something this valuable? The pharmacist hesitated. Are you really sure? Raphilia answered firmly, yes. Even if an unknown plague breaks out in the future, this is worth trying. She held out a roll of parchment. I've also written the preparation method here. Please take it. Raphilia turned and waved goodbye to the pharmacist, who bowed deeply from the doorway. The part about the herb already being common in other countries was a lie. But as long as it can help more people, that's enough. It was fortunate father happened to import that rare herb. Raphilia stopped in front of the carriage. I know this will be the last time. After marriage, I should devote myself to my herbal research. Cyrus stood beside the carriage, quietly watching her. I've done everything I can. None of this would have been possible without Lord Cyrus. A stone struck Cyrus on the head. Raphilia's eyes widened in shock. What? A boy burst out of the crowd and charged towards Cyrus. The people around them shouted, What do you think you're doing to Lord Cyrus? The boy was forced to the ground, but he roared in fury. It's all because of the king. The king and his people live in luxury. So why are we citizens so poor? Because of the crushing taxes. Because of the king, my mother, worked herself to death. The boy's voice cracked with tears. And my sister too? Raphilia froze. Cyrus stepped toward the boy being held down. Wait, he's not going to use violence, is he? Cyrus raised a hand to stop the guards. He crouched down and looked the boy straight in the eyes. I'm sorry. Cyrus gently rested a hand on the boy's head. I will report this to the king and do my best to improve the system. The crowd watched Cyrus. There was no anger on his face, only sadness. The carriage wheels rolled forward once more. Cyrus stared out the window. Raphilia asked softly, Are you all right? You should have been angry, but all I saw was sorrow. Raphilia smiled and said, Even so, that boy was very brave. Ha! Silence filled the carriage, and Raphilia decided to keep quiet. Cyrus rested his chin on his hand and gazed out the window. My mother also died when I was around that age. Raphilia blinked. What? Cyrus continued, so I can understand how he feels. I see. I heard Lord Cyrus's birth mother died of illness. Then Raphilia's eyes suddenly fixed on something. There's still sand in your hair. Cyrus paused. Raphilia leaned forward and gently brushed the grains from his hair. Her fingertips touched his hair lightly and tenderly. Cyrus lifted his eyes and looked at her quietly. Raphilia withdrew her hand. There it was sandy. Cyrus stared at her, his gaze deep. Then suddenly, he grabbed Raphilia's wrist. Raphilia's body went stiff. Cyrus took her hand, their fingers brushing together. Raphilia was at a loss. Cyrus spoke in a low voice. Tonight is the day we agreed on. Raphilia asked in confusion, What? Cyrus looked straight at her. Come to my bedroom tonight. A blush spread over Raphilia's cheeks, her eyes flickering uncertainly. Moonlight filled the bedroom. Raphilia and Cyrus lay side by side, each under their own blanket. So we're sleeping together again. Just like last time. That's fine too. At least it's reassuring. But still, I forgot to bring my hot water bottle. It's so hard for someone like me, who gets cold easily. Cyrus's voice broke the silence. Can't sleep? Raphilia replied. No, it's cold today, isn't it? Cyrus answered, My body temperature runs high, so I didn't really notice. Raphilia said softly, I see. Lucky you. Oh right, just a moment. Excuse me. Raphilia turned towards Cyrus. Lord Cyrus, may I borrow a little warmth from you for a moment? Raphilia placed her feet on top of Cyrus's feet. It's even nicer than a hot water bottle. It makes me feel so content. Cyrus blushed and murmured, do as you like. Raphilia apologized, then added, thank you for taking me with you today. It was a meaningful experience. I'm really glad I got to go in person. Cyrus said softly, that's all thanks to your suggestion. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had this valuable opportunity. Raphilia smiled. About the water system issue, the mayor submitted a formal request. Did you know that? Saidu-san said, no. The request never got past the ministers. But once I learned of the problem, I should have inspected it sooner. Raphilia nodded. Officials really ought to go see things for themselves and listen to the people. I don't mean just you, Cyrus, but everyone involved in governing the country. The water issue should have been handled by the ministers. So should poverty and national budget decisions. Everything gets decided at a desk without ever seeing reality firsthand. Of course, the king's intentions matter too, but if this continues, it could lead to rebellion. In the end, it would destroy the king himself. Raphilia continued, Cyrus, I've seen you travel all over to inspect conditions and propose solutions. I've also seen you plead directly with the king and the ministers. But in the end, everything is decided by the king and the people around the queen. To be honest, it's frustrating enough to be unbearable. You work so sincerely. Cyrus felt his heart jolt. Her words sounded as though she had always been watching his work. I see. So that was why she used herbal tea to comfort me. His fingertips gently wound around a strand of Raphilia's hair. Cyrus gazed at her sleeping profile. Compared to when I first met you before our arranged marriage, you're like a completely different person. Cyrus looked at her peaceful face and whispered softly, good night. Then, as if he had used up all his courage, he turned away again. Morning sunlight filtered through the leaves, scattering dappled shadows. What lovely weather. Raphilia was already by the window. Maybe I should go take a walk in the garden. A sharp scolding voice rang out. What's that noise? The queen snapped angrily. I said I wanted orange flowers. These are vermilion, not orange. She shouted at a maid kneeling on the ground. You can't even handle something this simple? You're dismissed. Pack your things and get out of the castle immediately. The maid collapsed forward, hands braced against the floor. I swear I'll never make another mistake. Please forgive me. The queen refused coldly. No. She half covered her face with her fan. I've long since grown tired of that dreary face. Go back to your countryside. Raphilia stood there quietly, watching it all. How cruel. Raphilia stepped forward. She picked up the bouquet that had fallen to the ground. And these flowers. She turned toward the queen. Forgive me for speaking out, but these flowers were orange when they were first picked. However, as time passes, their red deepens. They are quite a rare variety. So when they were delivered, but they surely were orange. The queen answered coldly, this is between me and Lydia. Step aside. Raphilia's eyes fell on the maid. A locket slipped from the girl's chest, hit the floor, and sprang open. Inside was a picture of her family. This girl, Lydia, could she be that boy's sister? She came to work at the castle to support her younger brother. Raphilia looked straight at the queen. My lady, would you allow me to take her as my maid? The queen gave her a disdainful glance. I already have 2 maids. That alone is generous enough. Even one more is excessive. She snapped her fan shut. Do as you please. Raphilia picked up the bouquet. I like these flowers. Could they be arranged in my room? Tears welled in Lydia's eyes. Lady Raphilia, thank you so much. Raphilia sat at her desk reading, while Lydia stood quietly by the side. Lydia spoke softly. Lady Raphilia, why did you help me? Raphilia lowered her gaze. Because even the queen can be unreasonable at times. That was an unfair dismissal. Lydia let out a faint laugh. Hearing you say, that surprises me. I thought you were quite shy, Lady Raphilia. So Lydia wasn't cold after all. After my mother died in the western countryside, I came here. And since then, that I've never really been able to smile. Just as I thought. Raphilia took Lydia's hand. These days, that must have been very hard for you. Tears filled Lydia's eyes. Lady Raphilia, lowering her voice, she added, please be very careful. Her Majesty the Queen. Raphilia stiffened. The Queen? Lydia's expression grew grave. You may have heard the rumors about the succession. She often speaks badly of Prince Cyrus and of you. Raphilia fell into thought. In order to place her son, Prince Elliot, on the throne, Cyrus is an obstacle. And if I were to bear an heir, that our place in the succession would move up. But childbirth had already been ruled out. I know very well how malicious the queen is. After all, in the life before last, Raphilia's pupils suddenly contracted. What if the one who poisoned Cyrus, that was the queen herself? And then she framed me and had me executed. That was all part of her plan. It explains everything. That has to be the truth. Raphilia pushed a tea cart. Lord Cyrus, I brought you some tea. She opened the door. Lord Cyrus. Cyrus was leaning over his desk on one arm, apparently asleep. Raphilia tiptoed in and set the teapot on the table. I wanted to drink the herbal tea regularly. Maybe I should leave a note. She looked at the feather pen on the desk. Can I borrow this pen for a moment? Raphilia picked it up and wrote on a piece of paper, You've worked hard. Please drink some tea. Take care of yourself. She placed the note beside the teacup. Documents were piled all over the desk. Waterworks plans for the Western region, fiscal reform proposals for poverty relief, recommendations for on-site inspections. Raphilia looked over the papers. He's drawing up plans for the country, just like we talked about, but he's overworking himself. Suddenly, Cyrus opened his eyes. His gaze turned sharp. What are you doing here? Raphilia jumped in surprise. I am terribly sorry. Raphilia explained, I brought you some tea. I was just going to leave it here and go. Cyrus picked up the note she had left. I see. He took the teacup. I'll drink it. Raphilia gathered her courage. Lord Cyrus, I know this may be presumptuous again. Cyrus looked up. What is it? Raphilia continued. I used to help with accounting work at home, so if there is anything I can assist with. The door suddenly flew open. Owen burst in. Oh, Lady Raphilia is here too. He greeted them brightly. Hey, how are you? Cyrus's expression darkened. Owen, I told you to knock. Raphilia gave a small bow. Good day, Lord Owen. Thank you for the other day. Owen grinned. No problem. That outing was fun. Call me anytime. Cyrus sipped his tea expressionlessly. Owen turned to him. You two were talking, right? Don't mind me, go on. Raphilia hesitated. Then she faced Cyrus again. I want to help ease Lord Cyrus's burden somehow. Even simple paperwork would be fine. Cyrus rejected it coldly. No. Then he added, there's no need for that. Raphilia persisted. But you look so busy you barely have time to sleep. Cyrus cut her off. Your concern is unnecessary. I can handle it myself. At last, Raphilia blurted out what she really meant. I'm bored. I want something to do. Owen couldn't hold it in and burst out laughing. Owen chuckled. You're adorable, Rafi. You're worried about Cyrus, aren't you? He turned to Cyrus. Stop being stubborn and let her help. Aren't you always complaining that miscellaneous tasks are keeping you from the work that really matters? Cyrus fell silent for a moment. Fine. He looked at Raphilia. Then I'll entrust you with one thing. Understood. Raphilia lit up with delight. Yes. Cyrus took a wooden box from beneath the desk and set it on top. Then take this. Raphilia looked puzzled. HM? Owen recognized the documents inside the box. Isn't this from when our knight's order made the expedition to the Black Forest? Haven't you been saying lately that expedition funds are running short? I was planning to sort out the expenses while writing the report and redo the budget. Cyrus turned his head, his gaze landing on Owen. That is normally your job. Owen looked unhappy. I only just got here. Raphilia sat down on the sofa, her fingers rapidly working an abacus with crisp clicking sounds. An hour later, Raphilia held up the completed documents. I'm finished. Owen and Cyrus both stared at her in astonishment. That fast, Raphilia displayed the chart. I organized everything by unit and squad, date, item, and quantity, amount spent on supplies, place of purchase, purchaser, and intended use. I also made a template, so from now on each unit can just fill it out and submit it. I think this should lighten your workload, Lord Cyrus. He pointed to several entries. The medical unit made a lot of bulk purchases of consumables, but the quantities aren't clearly listed. That may need to be checked. Cyrus took the document and carefully reviewed it. The archery unit listed bows and arrows, but the seal is from a restaurant. Owen patted Cyrus on the shoulder in admiration. Nicely done. And you even exposed problems inside the knight's order while you were at it. Thank you very much. Cyrus set the file down and looked at Raphilia with sincere eyes. I wish you could keep helping me. Raphilia clasped her hands together, her eyes lighting up. Of course. Owen smiled and ruffled her hair. That's great. Cyrus suddenly cut in. Hey, Owen, you should get back to work. Owen looked stunned. I finally got a chance to talk to Rafi. Cyrus looked at him. I'll sort out the medicine and hand it over to you. The mission starts tomorrow. Please come help again. Raphilia held her teacup in both hands. Understood. Then she suddenly remembered something. Oh, right. Tonight is our turn to share a room, isn't it? Cyrus paused slightly. Ah, yes. Raphilia smiled. Then I'll come by tonight. See you later. She turned and left. The door closed softly behind her. Cyrus remained alone in the room. He lowered his head tiredly, supporting his forehead with both hands. The note with its carrying message slipped from his hand and fluttered onto the desk. He picked up the note, tracing the writing with his fingertips. His gaze softened. Night fell. Candlelight flickered. Raphilia and Cyrus lay side by side on the bed. Cyrus turned his head. Are your feet cold? Raphilia kept her eyes open. It's not that cold today. I think I'm fine. Cyrus replied quietly. I see. Silence settled between them. Then Cyrus suddenly said, but I'm cold. Raphilia's foot brushed against Cyrus. Concerned, she asked, "Are you all right?" Cyrus's voice sounded weak. "I'm Fina." Raphilia suddenly realized, "Oh no, Lord Cyrus. Your body is freezing." Cyrus explained, embarrassed. "Maybe I got chilled after my bath." What should I do?" Cyrus asked softly. "Sorry, could you turn around?" Raphilia answered obediently. "Okay." She turned over, and Cyrus gently embraced her from behind. He buried his face in her hair. "You're so warm. It's really completely different from last time. Back then only your feet were cold, but today, Lord Cyrus's whole body is ice cold. Could he be sick?" Cyrus said softly. "Just stay like this. I'll warm up soon." His arms tightened, pulling Raphilia closer. Raphilia's toes curled. "Lord Cyrus." Cyrus turned Raphilia over. The two gazed deeply at each other. Their faces slowly drew closer. Just then, Raphilia noticed something was wrong with Cyrus. She called urgently, "Lord Cyrus, are you all right?" Cyrus let out a pained sound, and his body suddenly sank. Raphilia caught him by the shoulders. "Is that an injury?" A strange mark appeared over his shoulder blade, glowing faintly blue-violet. "I've never seen a bruise like this before." Cyrus panted in pain. Raphilia held him tightly. "Lord Cyrus, are you all right?" With his eyes shut tight and voice hoarse, he said, "This happens often. Don't mind me. Go out." Raphilia's eyes turned firm. "How could I possibly leave you like this?" Holding his shoulders, Raphilia looked straight at his pained face. "Lord Cyrus, you're always too hard on yourself. Please rely a little more on the people around you." She stood up. "I'll call the royal physician right away." Cyrus suddenly reached out. "Wait!" A vase slipped from his hand and shattered with a crash. Water and lilies splashed all over the floor. Raphilia turned back in shock. Cyrus struggled to sit up. "Don't call a doctor. I'm just exhausted." Raphilia hesitated, but the butler appeared at the door and asked with concern, "Lord Cyrus, what happened?" Raphilia looked at the newcomer, then back at Cyrus on the bed. "Will he be all right? I've never seen Lord Cyrus like this." "Wait, now that I think about it, in my previous life, he told me not to come anymore. We only ever shared a room twice. This is the first time I've seen him trembling in such pain. This is the third time now, so I have no memory of this scene at all. Did my different actions change the timeline?" The butler called out, "Lady Raphilia." His tone was gentle. "I'm here now. Everything will be fine. Please return to your room and rest." Raphilia looked up at him. "Will he really be all right?" "Yes, that is Lord Cyrus's wish as well. Good night." The door closed softly. Raphilia stood alone outside the room, utterly drained. Lord Cyrus certainly works very hard, but for him to collapse like that, does he have some kind of chronic illness? "I'm so worried." A voice suddenly came from behind her. Grace's silhouette fell across the wall, and Raphilia turned in surprise. Raphilia looked at Grace. "Lady Grace, were you going this late?" Watching Grace's hurried retreating figure, she followed after her. Then, before Raphilia's eyes, Grace was led into a room by a man, and the door closed behind them. He must have been summoned and rushed over. Lord Cyrus, when he's in pain, the person he wants by his side is Lady Grace after all. If he has a chronic illness, then he must have told Lady Grace too. What I said earlier, please rely more on the people around you. Now it just seems ridiculous. Raphilia lowered her gaze to her own hands, heart sinking. But perhaps this is fine too. As long as he has someone he can rely on, that's enough. Raphilia turned and walked alone down the empty corridor. Her shadow stretched long by the lamplight. Lydia approached with a fruit basket in hand, her steps light. Raphilia walked beside her. "Actually, I could carry that myself." Lydia smiled in reply. "Please don't say that. It's my duty to lighten your burden, Lady Raphilia." "Thank you." Lydia continued cheerfully. "With these snacks, Lord Cyrus will recover his energy in no time." Raphilia stopped at the door, her hand on the doorknob. Grace's figure appeared through the crack. She smiled elegantly. "Good morning, Lady Raphilia. Lord Cyrus is inside." Raphilia nodded. "Good morning. I know." Lydia stopped Raphilia. "Wait, Lady Raphilia." She lowered her voice. "This is too much. You have every right to be angry." Raphilia turned her head. "Lydia, you've heard those rumors too, haven't you?" Lydia protested heatedly. "That was all before the marriage. I thought after he married you, that sort of behavior would certainly stop. But now, I'm trembling with anger." Raphilia smiled at her. "You're very kind, Lydia." Lydia, still indignant, said, "No matter how beloved Lady Grace is, you are his wife, Lady Raphilia. Lord Cyrus and Lady Grace should show a little restraint. At first, even the smallest thing would make my heart ache. But in the end, that feeling turned into disappointment and resignation. More importantly, carrying out my plan is what matters now. I have to get divorced without anyone dying. Only then can each of us grasp our own happiness. Lord Cyrus and Lady Grace must find theirs too. Raphilia entered the room. "Good morning, Lord Cyrus. Are you feeling any better?" Cyrus looked at her. "There's no need to worry." Raphilia nodded. "That's good. If you'd like, please have some." Cyrus cut her off. You all can eat it yourselves." His voice was cold. "I'll be leaving the castle for a few days." Raphilia replied calmly. "I see. Understood." Cyrus gripped the doorframe with difficulty. Raphilia looked at him in alarm. "Lord Cyrus." The fruit slipped from her hands and rolled all over the floor. Raphilia hurried toward him, but Cyrus, his face full of pain, clutched his chest tightly. "Don't touch me." Raphilia froze in place, her eyes filled with confusion and worry. She stood by the window, sunlight spilling over her as she held a book in her hands. Through the window, Raphilia looked outside. Beside the carriage, Cyrus and Grace stood side by side, looking intimate. Lydia was furious. "Lord Cyrus wouldn't let you touch him, but he allows Lady Grace to? That's simply unforgivable." Raphilia turned around, expression calm. "It's fine. Lydia, I'm not upset or anything. Yet last night in bed, we had been so close." But the moment he felt unwell, his attitude completely changed. He was so obviously pushing me away. Lydia watched the carriage recede through the window. "He said he'd be away for a few days. I never imagined he'd be going to recuperate with Lady Grace." Raphilia gave a soft laugh, like a secret getaway. Lydia hurriedly turned back. "Lady Raphilia, this is no laughing matter." Raphilia turned her face slightly, the corners of her eyes curving with faint resignation. "I'm already used to this sort of thing." She stood alone before the enormous window, her back lonely. They always left the castle like this from time to time. A carriage would drive away carrying the two of them. In difficult times, they probably wanted to treasure their time alone together. Raphilia thought of herself in her previous life. "Back then, I surely would have been heartbroken. I won't let myself hurt like that anymore." Raphilia clenched her fist, determination returning to her eyes. "That's right. While I have the chance, I need to finish the work Cyrus entrusted to me." There was a knock at the door. Lydia peeked in. "It seems Lord Cyrus will be back soon." Raphilia closed the file in her hands. "Perfect timing. I've just finished the work he assigned me. He must be exhausted. I'll prepare some herbal tea." Lydia looked at her with pity. "You truly are an impeccable wife. How can Lord Cyrus be so cruel to you?" Raphilia picked up the teapot. "You're exaggerating. By the way, Lydia," she glanced toward the seat, "it's time to begin preparing." "All right, the tea as well. I'll take care of it." Cyrus entered the study, one hand to his forehead. He looked exhausted. Tossing his coat over the back of a chair, he stood alone before the desk. He picked up the thick stack of papers on the desk. In only a few days, she processed this much. Cyrus looked at the note on the desk. "Welcome home. Your work is important, of course, but please take care of your health." Raphilia, Cyrus stared at the note. Raphilia, he stood there in silence, eyes fixed on the paper for a long time. Then Cyrus turned and strode out of the study. The sound of knocking echoed as Cyrus pushed open a door. "She's not here." He stood in the doorway, looking around the empty room. Cyrus quickly found Lydia and asked, and she told him Raphilia had apparently gone to the greenhouse. Then Cyrus went to the greenhouse as well. She wasn't there either. His shadow fell across the floor as he muttered softly, "Where did she go?" Cyrus noticed the door ahead standing open, with voices coming from inside. Lydia was fastening a necklace around Raphilia's neck, admiring her. "How beautiful, Lady Raphilia." Raphilia looked a little embarrassed. "It doesn't have to be this elaborate." Lydia lightly stroked her hair. "I'm only bringing out the beauty you naturally possess." Cyrus pulled the door open, his gaze falling on her. Raphilia lifted her skirt and gave a slight curtsy. "Welcome back, Lord Cyrus. Are you feeling better?" Cyrus froze where he stood. No. He stared at Raphilia's profile, cold sweat beading at his temples. Raphilia asked worriedly, "Are you still not feeling well?" Cyrus avoided her eyes. "No, I'm fine. There's no problem." Raphilia smiled in relief. "That's good." Cyrus looked at her with a complicated expression. Lydia stepped forward. "Lord Cyrus, pardon me for interrupting your admiration of Milady," but Cyrus immediately denied it. "It's not like that." Lydia stood between them. "Lady Raphilia is very busy right now. Could you come back later?" Cyrus frowned. "Busy? What happened?" Raphilia answered calmly, "Yes. I was invited by Her Majesty the Queen and the other noble ladies to attend a tea party." Cyrus blinked slightly. "I see. Understood." Raphilia lowered her eyes as memory surged back. "I remember that tea party now. It was an elegant gathering, one only noble women with special abilities were permitted to attend. The moment I spoke, I became the laughingstock of the room. I'll never forget the pain of not belonging there." Cyrus watched her back, his eyes flickering. Raphilia turned to look at him. "Lord Cyrus, is something the matter?" Cyrus hesitated. Oh. Then he apologized softly. Lydia spoke up. Lady Raphilia, let's go. Raphilia looks especially beautiful today. The thought slipped into Cyrus's mind before he could stop it. Cyrus lifted his head and looked straight at her. Thank you for completing the work I gave you. He paused. And for the tea you prepared. I'm grateful for that too. Raphilia's cheeks flushed slightly. Lydia looked at her and couldn't help letting out a small laugh. Cyrus left the room. In the bright, sunny courtyard, noble women sat gathered beneath a pavilion, enjoying the afternoon tea party. The queen held a folding fan and greeted everyone with a smile. Ladies, thank you all for coming today. I happened to receive some delicious sweets, so I invited you all specially to enjoy them. One red-haired noblewoman asked softly, thank you for your invitation. And the lady over there is Cyrus's? The queen smiled and nodded. Yes, let me take this opportunity to introduce Raphilia, who married the second prince, Cyrus. Raphilia gave a slight wave, wearing a somewhat shy smile. My name is Raphilia. I hope you'll remember me. One noblewoman sighed softly. Oh my, how lovely. The pleasure is ours. Another leaned toward her companion and whispered. More importantly, a maid brought out a tray of sweets. These desserts are extremely rare. They were specially ordered from the Duchy of Lucerne. Raphilia lifted her teacup. How nostalgic. This feeling. Aside from Lydia, everything is exactly the same as before. One noblewoman touched her forehead and said, speaking of which, I've been sleeping very lightly lately, and I can't seem to recover from my fatigue. Another added, my skin has been a little itchy lately too. Raphilia closed her eyes, struggling inwardly. For insomnia, sage tea works very well. For itchy skin, branches from the Rianesca tree. I really want to say that. But last time, the moment I spoke and showed my knowledge of plants, the queen assumed I was some sort of botanical expert. I have to stay silent. She remembered the queen's furious face. This is all because of Raphilia, who is supposedly so knowledgeable about plants. The queen picked up her teacup. The tea has gone cold. I'll go have it reheated. Everyone thanked the queen. The queen clapped her hands. Oh, by the way, ladies, since this is such a rare opportunity, why don't we each demonstrate our abilities? The noble women all agreed. Wonderful. I'd love to see that. Raphilia closed her eyes. It's starting. My humiliation show. One noblewoman stood up. Then who shall go first? She stretched out her hand, and a sugar cube floated into the air, tracing a sparkling arc before dropping into a teacup. Another noblewoman blew gently, and a delicate pink blossom appeared in her palm out of thin air, its petals drifting on the breeze. A third held a fresh flower and quietly closed her eyes, bathed in a soft glow. The queen lightly fanned herself. You are all so splendid. Now then, it's Raphilia's turn. Her gaze turned to Raphilia, carrying a faintly appraising smile. Your turn. How will you entertain us? Raphilia sat at the table, the focus of everyone's attention. Lowering her eyes, she said, as I apologized for before, I have no ability I can demonstrate. What? That's impossible. Isn't she an ability user? How can someone without abilities marry into the royal family? The queen tapped the table lightly with her fan. That's right. Raphilia has no abilities at all. The queen adopted a pleading tone. I beg of you all, please keep this a secret for me. A crowd of noble women who love gossip could never keep such a secret. The queen's aim was to spread rumors that I'm a useless, non-gifted woman, and use that to lower both my standing and Cyrus's. But this time will be different. Raphilia slowly rose, her back resolute as she walked to the center of the courtyard. She accepted a case from a maid and opened it. Inside lay a violin. Taking up the bow, she elegantly lifted the instrument. The strings glimmered softly in the sunlight. One noblewoman looked puzzled. What instrument is that? I've never seen it before. Raphilia placed the violin on her shoulder, graceful and poised. This is a rare foreign instrument called a violin. It is a keepsake inherited from my father. I've been familiar with it since childhood. Please allow me to play a piece for you. She closed her eyes, and the bow gently touched the strings. A flowing melody emerged. The notes danced through the air like spirits. The noble women held their breath, their expressions shifting from surprise to enchantment. The queen gripped her fan tightly, her face dark, her gaze sharp as a blade. Bathed in sunlight among the flowers, Raphilia seemed part of a living painting, the music and floral fragrance weaving together. She lowered the bow, and the final note faded into the air. Applause thundered around her. One noblewoman's eyes shone with tears. That was beautiful. What a moving tone. I nearly cried. Raphilia bowed slightly. Thank you very much. It is my honor that you enjoyed it. The queen remained seated, her profile dark with displeasure. Her nails dug deep into her palms. The tea party ended, and the noble women clustered around Raphilia as they walked toward the palace entrance. At the doorway, one noble woman handed her an exquisite box. A small token from today. Please enjoy it with Lord Cyrus on a special occasion. Raphilia accepted it. Thank you very much. The queen watched Raphilia's retreating back, a flash of malice in her eyes. Smiling, she said, "Let me see everyone off to the veranda." The hand hidden behind her fan quietly moved. One finger stirred a thorny vine into action. Like a snake, the vine silently coiled around Raphilia's ankle and gave a sharp yank. Raphilia's body lurched unexpectedly, and she stumbled forward. Lydia cried out, "Lady Raphilia, are you all right?" She rushed forward, trying to support the fallen Raphilia. Raphilia barely managed to steady herself. "I'm Fine." But before the words had even settled, she let out a muffled groan. Clutching the violin case, Raphilia said, "I only twisted my ankle." "Commander Owen," someone in the crowd cried. Owen hurried over, concern all over his face. "What happened?" Lydia quickly explained, "I'm sorry. Lady Raphilia injured her foot." "What?" Owen's expression changed immediately. Without hesitation, he rushed over and swept Raphilia into his arms. His movements were decisive, yet gentle. "We're going to the infirmary right away." Raphilia cried out, "Commander Owen, I'm fine." Owen turned with her in his arms. "It's all right. Hold on tight." He strode quickly toward the entrance. At that moment, a figure appeared at the far end of the corridor. It was Lord Cyrus. Cyrus stood there silently. Raphilia could hardly believe he had seen her in such a miserable state. Cyrus's voice was icy. "What happened? What's going on?" Owen answered, "Lady Raphilia injured her foot." Cyrus's gaze was sharp as a saw, fixed on Owen holding Raphilia. "Why, are you the one carrying her?" Owen looked stunned. Still holding Raphilia, Owen tried to explain to Cyrus. There was no helping it. When Rafi was hurt, she was surrounded by ladies, so Cyrus remained expressionless. "I'll take her." Owen and Raphilia both froze. "What?" Without another word, Cyrus took Raphilia from Owen's arms. His movements were forceful, yet careful. Suddenly slung over his shoulder, Raphilia cried out, "Wait." As she protested, Cyrus gave an order without looking back. "Send the court physician to my room." Carrying Raphilia over his shoulder, he strode down the corridor, leaving the others staring after them in shock. Raphilia struggled against him. "Lord Cyrus, I can walk on my own. I really can walk." Cyrus's voice came from below. "This isn't the same as Owen carrying you. I'm your husband. I'm the one you should rely on." Raphilia fell silent for a moment. That may be true, but Cyrus entered the room and gently set her on the bed. Then he turned and demanded, "Is Owen really that good?" Raphilia waved her hands at once. "I never said that." Cyrus stepped closer. "You lack awareness of your status as my wife." Raphilia lowered her eyes. It was an unavoidable situation. He was helping me, after all. Cyrus's voice grew even colder. "Even so, there was no need for your bodies to be pressed that close." He looked down at Raphilia, sitting on the bed, his gaze sharp. "What?" Raphilia's face flushed bright red. Prince Cyrus, who clearly has Grace as his lover, still feels possessive of his own wife. His own conduct is hardly proper. Raphilia lifted her head, her gaze clear and steady. "Prince Cyrus, you were the one who said this marriage was only for appearances. It's hard for me to understand what you want." Cyrus retorted, "Because appearances matter. All I said was that in public, you shouldn't let other men touch you." Raphilia's eyes sharpened. "So your reputation matters more than my injury? As long as it isn't in public, anything is acceptable?" Cyrus faltered, then clicked his tongue impatiently. He suddenly pushed Raphilia down onto the bed, bracing both hands on either side of her and trapping her beneath him. Cyrus bent down close, his breath brushing her cheek. Lying beneath him, Raphilia's eyes were full of shock and confusion. Looking up at him, her voice trembled faintly. "What is it?" Cyrus said nothing, only gazed at her with deep, complicated eyes. Slowly, he lowered his face, drawing nearer and nearer. Raphilia's heart thudded wildly. Here it comes again. She shut her eyes, feeling that familiar sense of pressure. Cyrus stared at her, as if he might swallow her whole with his gaze. Under that stare, it felt as though even her soul might be pulled in. Raphilia squeezed her eyes shut, heart pounding, waiting for the inescapable moment. Cyrus's hand stroked Raphilia's hair as he called softly, "Raphilia." Her heart gave a violent jump. Lying on her back, her entire field of vision was filled with him. Then suddenly, a knock at the door shattered the silence. Lydia's voice came from outside. Lady Raphilia, we've brought the court physician, Morris. Owen asked urgently. Rafi, are you all right? Cyrus quickly stood up, and Raphilia sat up as well. She touched her forehead and called toward the door. Thank you. Lydia looked displeased. Lady Raphilia is injured. Please don't treat her roughly. Cyrus gave a cold snort. Then Lydia turned and walked to the window, picking up a flower vase as sunlight streamed through the curtains. Honestly, Lady Raphilia, at a time like this, shouldn't you be resting properly? You even had Sir Kane, the attendant, help share your workload. Raphilia sat at the desk, a quill in hand. I had nothing better to do anyway, so I wanted something to occupy myself. Really, the injury to my leg is much better already. Lydia reminded her. At the very least, you need to keep resting until today. Raphilia looked at the potted flower. That's a nebula flower, isn't it? It's beautiful and quite rare. Where did you get it? Lydia answered. The greenhouse gardener gave it to me. Raphilia nodded in understanding. So nebula flowers can bloom in the greenhouse too. I really hope I can go into the greenhouse again. She murmured to herself, oh right, it's about time to bring Prince Cyrus his herbal tea. But ever since that day, the atmosphere had felt a little awkward. Cyrus had been rather forceful then. There was a knock at the door. A brown-haired man with glasses entered. Lady Raphilia, pardon the intrusion. Raphilia looked up. Kane, perfect timing. She handed him the file in her hand. This is finished. Could you help me deliver it to Prince Cyrus? Kane's gaze rested on her, carrying a trace of scrutiny that was hard to detect. He stepped forward and accepted the documents from Raphilia. Forgive me, Lady Raphilia. Prince Cyrus ordered me to come and report on the situation. How is your leg? Raphilia gave him a reassuring smile. My leg is fine now. Starting tomorrow, I'll be able to do rehabilitation exercises and walk around more. Kane gave a slight nod. That is wonderful. In that case, he adjusted his glasses, the lenses flashing faintly. I've been entrusted by Prince Cyrus with a message. Raphilia smiled, curious. Is that so? He relayed the prince's words. Come to my bedchamber tonight. Those were his exact words. After saying that, Kane turned to leave. Excuse me. Raphilia remained frozen where she stood. Holding a tray, Raphilia stood before Cyrus's bedchamber. Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating her hesitant figure. She pushed the door open and entered. Cyrus sat at the edge of the bed, several buttons of his shirt undone. He silently watched her come in. Holding a teacup, Raphilia asked softly, would you like something to drink before bed? Cyrus took the cup. Yes, I was just thirsty. He took a sip of tea, his gaze never leaving her. Ken already told me everything. He said you've been helping process documents the whole time. Thank you very much. Raphilia turned slightly. It was nothing. I only helped a little. Cyrus asked. I heard your leg is better. Raphilia lowered her eyes. Yes, thanks to you. Cyrus stared at her. I see. Then he suddenly asked, is there anything you want? Raphilia looked up, puzzled. What? Why ask so suddenly? Cyrus looked away, the tips of his ears faintly red. To celebrate your recovery. Celebrate a mere sprained ankle? Or thank me for helping with the paperwork? Or apologize for our argument that day? Raphilia lowered her eyes. There isn't anything in particular that I want. Then she lifted her head, a trace of hope in her eyes. But if I had to choose, I'd like the key to the greenhouse and permission to use a small plot of land. It's just an idea, but if possible, I could grow herbs for your tea, Lord Cyrus. I could also cultivate antidotes for epidemics. And most importantly, being able to admire rare plants would keep me from getting bored. Cyrus looked at her. That's all. Such small requests are enough. Raphilia froze. Cyrus said calmly. Then it settled. Starting tomorrow, you may use it. I'll inform the gardener. Raphilia's eyes lit up instantly. Really? Are you certain? She clasped both hands before her chest, pure joy blooming across her face. Thank you so much. I'm so happy. Cyrus stared at her smiling face, his gaze deepening. Suddenly, he pulled her into his arms. He held her tightly, and the air around them seemed to freeze. Petals drifted around them. Raphilia trembled slightly in his embrace. Lord Cyrus, she tried to pull away. We aren't in public right now. I don't think there's any need to pretend to be husband and wife. Cyrus's voice sounded by her ear, low and firm. You are my wife, so I have the right to touch you. Raphilia stopped struggling. She looked up at him directly. By that logic, since you are my husband, Lord Cyrus, does that mean I also have the right to touch you? Her voice carried a hurt she could barely conceal. When you shook off my hand in the carriage, and when you wouldn't let me touch you before you received treatment, I was actually very hurt. Cyrus's pupils widened slightly. What? If only the husband has that right one-sidedly. Isn't that unfair? So, Lord Cyrus, please apologize too. After a moment of silence, Cyrus finally spoke. I admit that I spoke too harshly that day. For that, I'm sorry. Raphilia's gaze remained steady. Cyrus lowered his eyes, sweat slipping from his temple. That was my fault too. Raphilia raised her arms and gently wrapped them around his waist. A faint smile appeared on her face. There, now we're even. She closed her eyes and rested her head against his chest. Let's call this a reconciliation. Let's leave this matter here. Cyrus embraced her again and buried his face in her hair. They held each other in the quiet room. His voice sounded against her hair. The more I get to know you, the more different sides of you I discover. Were you hiding your true nature before because you were so quiet? With her eyes closed, Raphilia answered softly, Who knows? Maybe I was just nervous. I was desperately trying to play the role of a gentle, proper wife. Raphilia stood alone by the window, sunlight outlining her figure. Even though in my first life, all that effort came to nothing. Honestly, Lord Cyrus, I never imagined he had such a human side to him. Cyrus lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the bed. Raphilia let out a startled cry. Her body lost balance and fell backward. She landed on the soft bed as petals rained down. Cyrus leaned over her, covering her beneath him. His long hair spread across the sheets. What am I supposed to do? Raphilia's cheeks burned red. She closed her eyes, unable to push him away. Cyrus's hand caressed the nape of her neck. His fingertips were warm, so hot. His breath brushed her face, and the air was filled with intimacy. Nothing like this ever happened in my previous life. Never this close. And he never looked at me like this. Not even once. Yet Cyrus undid his sleeve, revealing the black mark on his shoulder, a pattern she had never seen before. I noticed it before too. The bruises on your body glowed with that rare blue-violet light. Cyrus spoke. It's late. We should sleep. Raphilia pushed herself up, stunned. What? Cyrus lay down and pulled up the covers, his back looking distant and cold. Raphilia sat at the edge of the bed, silently watching him. She stared at his back, her eyes complicated. Did I say something strange? Compared to my previous life, my life now is far fuller. I'm no longer simply idle, wasting away. I have people I can talk to, and my relationship with my husband isn't bad either. Raphilia poured tea for Cyrus, and the two faced each other quietly in a peaceful atmosphere. But ever since that day, he hasn't touched me again. Raphilia opened her eyes, shivering slightly from the cold. Cyrus noticed the movement. What's wrong? Are your feet cold? Raphilia looked a little surprised. Yes, a little. Cyrus turned over and gently enclosed her feet with his beneath the blanket. A rosy flush spread across Raphilia's face. They're warm now. Thank you. In the end, Cyrus is a gentle person. Morning sunlight filled the room. Looking out the window, Raphilia saw Cyrus saying goodbye to Grace. The two spoke in low voices, looking close. Raphilia watched silently, without the slightest ripple on her face. The carriage drove away from the estate, kicking up dust. Lydia came to Raphilia and said softly, I heard he won't be back for a few days. Another secret trip? Raphilia's gaze followed the departing carriage as she answered lightly, Probably. Lydia looked puzzled. The two of you seem to be getting along so well. Why is it like this? I really don't understand what Lord Cyrus is thinking. Raphilia's eyes drifted into the distance. Maybe there are some things I simply can't fill. Marriage and true feelings are two different things, after all. But as things are now, I'm already very happy. So don't worry. Raphilia took Lydia's hand, a sincere smile on her face. Thank you. You're very kind. Compared to my previous life, I've already received more from my life now than I deserve. Cyrus and Grace's figures receded through the garden. We're destined to divorce eventually. He is himself, and I am myself. We should each pursue our own happiness. A voice suddenly rang out. Rafi. Owen appeared in the doorway in his splendid military uniform. Do you know where Seer? Us is. Raphilia turned around. Oh, Commander Owen. She gave a slight wave. If you're looking for Lord Cyrus, he left the castle early this morning. Owen looked surprised. Is that so? Then he added, I guess it's his withdrawal period again. Withdrawal period? Raphilia's pupils tightened slightly. What do you mean? Owen hurriedly waved his hand. And no, it's nothing. Cyrus has had a chronic illness for a long time. Every few months, it flares up badly. So I think he left the castle this time to recuperate. A flare-up? Recuperation. So it's true. Lord Cyrus is ill, and he's been hiding it from me this whole time. Raphilia pressed on. But doesn't he have the royal physician, Morris? Why doesn't he recuperate in the castle? Owen looked troubled. Well, as long as Lady Grace is with him, he should be fine. But depending on the illness, herbal tea might actually make it worse. I need to know the details. Raphilia looked Owen straight in the eye. Commander Owen, if you know anything, please tell me. Her gaze was resolute, her tone leaving no room for refusal. It is a wife's duty to care for and support her husband's health. Owen looked conflicted. You're right, but if I say too much, it could damage the trust between Cyrus and me. To be honest, I only know the rough outline myself. Then he changed tack. Oh, regarding this, you'd better ask Alf. A trace of confusion flashed through Raphilia's eyes. Alf, a name she had never heard before. Owen explained, he's like Cyrus's old steward. He used to take care of him all the time. Rather than hear a half-baked explanation from me, he should be able to tell you more clearly. Owen took a small notebook from his breast pocket. If I remember correctly, opening it, he picked up a quill and quickly wrote a few words on the page. Owen handed her a slip of paper. Here, this is Alf's address. He continued, it's up in the mountains, but there are no monsters nearby, so it should be safe. Though, I haven't seen him in a very long time. I don't know if he's still there, but it's worth a try. Raphilia accepted the note. I understand. Thank you very much, Lord Owen. The maid Lydia stepped forward. Lady Raphilia, let me accompany you. Raphilia gently shook her head. No, it's all right. I'll have a carriage prepared and go alone. She turned, determination in her eyes. Lord Cyrus would likely not want outsiders to know of his condition. I'll ask in person. The carriage rolled along the forest path, its wheels rumbling onward. Raphilia gazed out the window. It should be around here somewhere. Sunlight filtered through gaps in the leaves, spilling over the lush mountain woods. A small cottage sat quietly in a clearing. Raphilia stepped down from the carriage. Could this be the place? An old man emerged from inside the cottage. His aged voice was calm and steady. Who are you? His hair was silver white, and he stood there holding a wooden staff. Raphilia's heart stirred. Could this be Mr. Alf? Lifting the hem of her skirt, she gave a slight curtsy. It is a pleasure to meet you. The old man tilted his head. H.M. Raphilia looked up. Sunlight fell across him. Hearing her voice, he turned. Oh, over here. Raphilia stared at him. This man. His eyes were shut. Could it be that his eyesight? Inside the cottage, Alf poured Raphilia a cup of hot tea. Steam curled up with the fragrance of tea. Raphilia held the cup in both hands. Thank you very much, Lord Alf. Alf waved a hand. Just call me Alf. No need for Lord. I truly never expected Cyrus's wife to come visit me. Raphilia bowed her head slightly. I'm sorry for arriving so suddenly. My name is Raphilia. You may call me Rafi. Alf kept his eyes closed, as though savoring the name. Raphilia. Then he suddenly said, could it be Raphilia Riddell? A flicker of surprise crossed Raphilia's face. Yes, Riddell is my maiden name. You know me? Alf slowly nodded. I thought your voice sounded familiar. He folded his hands together. Please forgive me, but may I touch your face? He explained plainly. As you can see, I cannot see. I want to confirm it with my hands. After hesitating a moment, Raphilia softly replied, all right. Alf reached out his aged hands and gently touched her cheeks, his fingertips tracing her features. With his eyes closed, his voice trembled slightly. It really is you, Leah. I never imagined Cyrus's bride would turn out to be Leah. Raphilia repeated the name in confusion. Leah. The nickname felt familiar. It sounded like something she had heard before. But when Alf's voice pulled her back to reality. It was about 13 years ago, he continued. Do you remember the tower deep within a misty forest? 13 years ago, a tower in the misty forest. Fragments of memory began to fall into place. Yes, a long time ago, I went into the forest to gather herbs. I got lost in the woods. It was in the misty forest. I saw a solitary tower there, and I shouted up toward the top, hello. The heavy wooden door slowly opened. A child alone in the depths of the forest. It must have been my imagination. Little Raphilia stood at the doorway. Hello, my name is Raphilia Riddell. Alf looked at her in surprise. So there really was someone. He crouched down and held her face in both hands. Little Raphilia looked up and asked, Mister, I heard a boy's voice from the top of the tower. Could it be you were the man in the tower back then? Alf smiled gently. Ah, so it really is Leah. No mistake about it. Memories came rushing back. Back then, Alf told me there was a boy in the tower 3 years older than me. That boy had spotted me from the top of the tower. Worried that I was lost, he asked Alf to come down and check on me. That day, I was given a map to the town and made it home safely. The next day, following the map, I returned to the tower. I wanted to thank the boy inside, so I brought a letter and a small bouquet I had made myself. I gave them to Alf, then gathered herbs around tower. A little basket slowly descended from the top, lowered by a rope. Inside were beautiful stones and a reply letter. I remember how happy I was, how excited. The letter said his name was Cyrus. After that, I began visiting the tower regularly. The tower stood tall, but I couldn't go inside, so we couldn't meet face to face or speak directly. Yet through Alf, we exchanged letters, and we grew closer and closer. From his letters, I learned that for certain reasons he could not leave the tower. His mother had died several years before, and he was terribly bored every day. He told me so many things, but following Alf's instructions, we never revealed our true identities to one another. Even so, those days were truly happy, until my parents discovered I had been venturing deep into the forest and restricted me from going out. Looking down on her teacup, Raphilia said, "I remember now. You told me back then that for the nickname in the letters, I should use the latter half of Raphilia." Yeah. Alf took a sip of tea. That's right. Raphilia held her cup, her gaze distant. Then, that means Cyrus. Alf folded his hands together. I never imagined Cyrus's bride would be Leah. How could this be? In my previous life, I knew nothing of it, and now I've learned such a shocking truth. Raphilia asked Alf, "Does Lord Cyrus know about this?" Alf answered, "He probably hasn't realized it. After all, he doesn't know what you look like, nor your name or voice." Raphilia lowered her eyes to the fireplace. "You're right. If he knew, he'd surely be shocked. But if we're going to divorce anyway, is there any point in telling him? More importantly, Alf, I came today because I wanted to ask you something." Alf turned toward her. "I know." Raphilia met his gaze directly. "It's about Cyrus's curse, isn't it?" Raphilia's pupils contracted. "A curse? Not an illness?" Alf's expression grew grave. "Raphilia, I will tell you everything. You have the right to know, and I hope you will understand." Raphilia nodded. "Yes." Alf began to tell her of an ancient prophecy. One born with a blue-violet crest possesses immense power, but is burdened with a curse. This is the prophecy passed down through the Mystoria royal family since ancient times, and it is their highest secret. The blue-violet crest. Alf continued, "Cyrus was born with that crest. Those who bear it wield tremendous power and can bring peace and prosperity to the kingdom. But at the same time, they face the danger of losing control of their magic. Until the curse is lifted, they may even bring destruction upon the country." Raphilia's face grew solemn. Such overwhelming power. Alf's voice became heavy. "That is precisely why Cyrus's father, the king, feared the curse and imprisoned Cyrus in that tower." Imprisoned? Then the Cyrus I exchanged letters with, Lord Cyrus. What must he have felt back then? Raphilia looked up. "But when he came of age at 18, wasn't the curse lifted? That's why he's able to live normally in the castle now, isn't it?" Alf closed his eyes. "It should have been." Raphilia crouched among the flowers in the greenhouse. "Just as I thought. There it is, calming herb. The last time I came here, I caught its scent. The sleep fruit can soothe the mind." Raphilia's fingers brushed over the blue petals. "It may not cure him, but at least it should ease his suffering a little." She rose to her feet. "Please take me to the misty forest." Carrying a flower basket, Raphilia boarded an elegant carriage. The carriage left the palace and headed for the distant forest. Reflected in the carriage window was Raphilia's profile. She stared outside, her expression both troubled and resolute. Could it be that the curse was never lifted? Alf answered firmly, "Yes. According to the records, 400 years ago, a member of the Mystoria family was born with a blue-violet crest. He could not control his power and was imprisoned in the Tower of Tenfold Wards. When he turned 18, the curse vanished, and, as the prophecy foretold, he led the kingdom into prosperity. Following that precedent, the king also imprisoned Cyrus in the tower and released him when he turned 18. At first, everything went smoothly. Cyrus's talent for leadership was extraordinary. He unified divided factions and pushed through legislation that had long been stalled. The king was overjoyed and called it the prelude to a great age of prosperity. But a few months later, an assassin infiltrated the castle and slipped into Cyrus's bedchamber. In that moment, though he acted in self-defense, Cyrus's power went out of control. The intruder escaped wounded, but Cyrus could not rein in his power and destroyed the entire room. When I arrived, Cyrus was writhing in agony as the crest burned into his skin. It was exactly the same as when his power ran wild in the tower years ago. Raphilia pressed him. Why didn't the curse disappear? Alf speculated. Perhaps reaching adulthood is not the only condition that must be met, but the relevant records have been lost, so we cannot be certain. Raphilia murmured, "Lost? How terrifying." Alf lowered his gaze. When the king learned that Cyrus's power had run wild, he flew into a rage and cast me, his caretaker, out of the castle. Cyrus objected, but the king's orders could not be defied. Raphilia's expression darkened. "How cruel." Alf continued. Everything after that I learned through Cyrus's letters. The king forcibly used a spell of mental domination on him so that he would continue handling affairs of state. But the forced control caused a backlash, leading to sudden violent outbursts. To prevent that power from causing destruction, he confined himself in the Tower of Tenfold Wards. So even now, Prince Cyrus continues to suffer under the curse while enduring the king's tyranny. The carriage came to a stop. The coachman called out, "Lady Raphilia, we've arrived. This is the misty forest." Holding her flower basket, Raphilia stepped down and gazed into the mist-covered woods. The driver stood beside her. "Are you really sure about this?" Raphilia looked back at him, her eyes resolute. "Thank you. I'll be fine. The existence of the tower must remain secret, so we can only go on foot from here. I remember this path. When I was a child, I walked it almost every day." Raphilia looked up at the tower. Sunlight streamed through the branches onto her as she stepped forward, crossed the grass, and approached the tightly shut doors of the tower. Wait. This place held not only childhood memories, but also a strange sense of familiarity. Fragments of memory flashed through her mind. A girl in a green dress running down a spiral staircase in a panic. Raphilia pressed a hand to her forehead. That's right. This tower belonged to Prince Cyrus. The last thing she had seen was the prince lying lifeless on a bed, with Grace kneeling beside him in utter despair. Back then, my mind was in complete turmoil. I never even realized it was this tower. Raphilia pushed open the heavy door. A man wearing glasses stood behind it. Cain looked startled. "Lady Raphilia, why are you here?" He adjusted his glasses, looking apologetic. "I'm very sorry, but I can't let you go any farther." Raphilia looked him straight in the eye. "I've known about this place for a long time, and I know Prince Cyrus as well. I've also met Lord Alf and heard the full story from him." Cain's expression softened. "Is that so? I understand. Then I'll go ask Prince Cyrus for permission." Raphilia stopped him. "That won't be necessary. I have both the resolve and the right to enter this tower." Hearing that, Cain stepped aside. Raphilia walked inside, her heart trembling faintly. "Even if you really went to ask, I'm sure he'd only say not to let me in." Just as I thought, Raphilia climbed the spiral stairs. "I remember this. This is the tower from that day." She lightly ran a hand along the cold stone wall. The entire tower was built from warding stone. Even someone without any power like me can feel the sacred presence here. Raphilia stopped at the end of the staircase. A heavy wooden door blocked her path. She pushed it open, and light poured in. In my previous life, Cyrus had lain still on the bed as though sunk into an eternal sleep. "You don't need to remember that," Raphilia told herself. "Prince Cyrus is still alive now." Cyrus was lying on his side on the bed. Raphilia called softly, "Prince Cyrus." Cyrus slowly opened his eyes, his gaze focusing on her. Raphilia smiled gently. "How are you feeling?" Cyrus abruptly sat up, his eyes filled with shock and anger. "Why are you here?" Cyrus's power instantly went out of control, and gusts of wind whipped through the room. Raphilia stood where she was unmoving. "Sira, I." Cyrus tensed, sweat sliding down his temple. In a low growl, he said, "Leave now." He flung out a hand, and an invisible force hurled Raphilia backward. "Get out, now." Raphilia staggered back, crashing into a table and knocking it over. Things scattered across the floor. Shaken, she felt tears sting her eyes. "Cyrus." He looked at her, his body trembling slightly with pain. His voice shook. "Please, leave. I don't know why you came here, but..." Cyrus did not look at her. He only stared downward at the pile of books beside the bed. "Leave this tower at once." Raphilia lowered her eyes. "Emet Alf." Cyrus stared in disbelief. "What? Alf? You mean Alfred?" Raphilia answered firmly. "Yes, I heard about your condition, and I learned about this place too." Cyrus straightened up, frowning. "What are you talking about? Even if you were my wife, why would Alf tell such things to someone he'd only just met?" Raphilia lifted her head, her gaze unwavering. "This isn't the first time we've met." Cyrus looked utterly confused. "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying." Raphilia gave him a reassuring smile. "I'll explain, but first, please let me tidy these flowers." Then she told him everything from the beginning. That's what happened. Holding the teapot, she looked calmly out the window. "When I found out that Cyrus was you, I was truly shocked." Lord Cyrus. Lying on the bed, Cyrus covered his face with one hand. "Wait." Smiling, Raphilia continued, "I still treasure every single stone you sent me, and every letter you wrote me back then." Cyrus ran his fingers through his hair. "Stop talking." Raphilia was Leah, the girl who loved plants, so proactive and kind. Memories surged back like a flood. The little girl in a blue and white dress, carrying an armful of fresh flowers. Back then, the only thing I could give her were fragments of the tower wall, stones shattered by my raging power, then polished smooth by my own hands. Aside from seeing Owen once a year, I hardly ever had contact with people my own age. In those maddeningly lonely and monotonous days, that little girl's presence was the only light I had. That brief span of time still remains vivid in my memory. Raphilia smiled. Have you been unable to sleep because of the pain? This herbal tea has a strong calming effect and helps with sleep. Al said you could drink this. Please try it. Steam rose in soft swirls from the cup, and the amber tea trembled faintly. Cyrus lifted the cup. Aren't you afraid of me? Raphilia blinked. Cyrus lowered his eyes. The way I am now, I could lose control at any moment. Knowing that, why can you still stay here? A glimmer passed through Raphilia's eyes. She only smiled quietly. It would be a lie to say, I'm not afraid. But I know you would never hurt me. Even just now when you lost control. And even before that, I wasn't harmed at all. Cyrus turned his face away. That was just luck. Next time, you might get hurt. Raphilia's smile remained gentle but firm. Then that will be my own fault. You don't need to blame yourself. Cyrus fell silent for a moment and could only mutter, do as you like. Raphilia urged him on. All right, once you've finished drinking, please lie down. By the way, do you remember? There was a time I brought my sister to the tower. Cyrus closed his eyes. I remember. Sitting by the bed, Raphilia recalled the old days. That day I received lots of flower crowns. I even mentioned it in my letter to you. Cyrus opened his eyes and looked at her. You have a good memory. Leaning closer, Raphilia asked, did you give Alpha flower crown that day too? When I saw him later, he was wearing one. Raphilia covered her mouth and laughed softly. So he really did keep wearing it. How nostalgic. Cyrus slowly spoke. Your sister. Could she be the woman who looked exactly like you at the wedding? Raphilia nodded. Yes, that's my twin sister, Irene. She smiled warmly. People mix us up all the time. Irene said there might be a prince living at the top of the tower. I never imagined you truly would be like a prince. Cyrus had already fallen asleep. His breathing was calm and steady. Raphilia quietly gazed at his sleeping face. Lord Cyrus, the burden your body bears must be so heavy. Then how much pain has your heart endured? Her fingertips lightly brushed his cheek, but stopped just before truly touching him. Her vision blurred. Raphilia sat beside the bed, looking at the sleeping man. In my previous life, I knew nothing about him. In his sleep, Cyrus let out a pained sound. Raphilia leaned over him and softly soothed him. It's all right, Lord Cyrus. She gently stroked his forehead, repeating over and over, it's all right. The deep crease in Cyrus's brow gradually eased, and he sank into a deeper sleep. Raphilia remained silently at his bedside, watching his peaceful profile. Now I know. I want to share his pain, even if only a little. At least until our divorce. A carriage stopped in front of the grand estate. Lydia stood at the entrance. It seems Lord Cyrus just returned. Raphilia stood by the window. Yes, I saw him from the window. He's recovering, and that's wonderful. I wonder if the calming herbs and the herbal tea helped. Lydia stepped up to her, looking troubled. Lady Raphilia, I'm sorry, but I have a request. Raphilia asked, what is it? Lowering her head, Lydia said, may I return to my younger brother's village in the western region for 2 days? Raphilia looked surprised. You may, of course, but has something happened? Lydia lifted her head. Her face was full of worry. Yes, I received word that, for some reason, the people in the village have all fallen ill. I'm very worried about the village and my brother. I want to go check on them. What? Raphilia's eyes widened. Could it be that plague? Cyrus looked at the documents in his hand. Why are we going to inspect the same place again? Raphilia explained, the irrigation project in the western region seems to be progressing smoothly. There shouldn't be any problems. But I want to go and personally confirm the follow-up situation. Please, I have to see with my own eyes whether they're truly using clean water and whether the apothecaries are using those herbs correctly. Owen suddenly appeared, arms spread wide. Cyrus, welcome back. He then turned to Raphilia. Ah, Rafi, you're here too. Raphilia gave a slight bow. Sir Owen, Cyrus flatly refused. Absolutely not. The road to the western region passes through dangerous areas. Sir Owen laughed and suggested, going out again? Then let me escort you one more time. Raphilia's eyes lit up. Really? She clasped her hands together and looked at Owen expectantly. Thank you very much. Cyrus's hand slammed down on the documents. Wait. He looked between Raphilia and Owen, and the atmosphere froze. Cyrus closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Fine. I'll accompany you myself. Sunlight streamed through the leaves. In the distance, the town lay bathed in the morning glow. Owen stretched. This is my first time here. What a nice place. Sir Owen said to Cyrus with a grin, since I've come all this way, you don't need to tag along. Let me join in the excitement once in a while. The villagers approached wearing masks. Lord Cyrus, welcome. Thank you for coming. A village representative stepped forward. It's all thanks to you. The issue with the water supply has been resolved, and now we can use clean water. We've learned the latest irrigation techniques, and we're even able to take on projects in neighboring areas. Employment has increased as well. We owe all of this to Lord Cyrus. Thank you so very much. Cyrus accepted the report. That's wonderful. It seems a healthy cycle has already taken shape. Suddenly, one of the villagers began coughing violently. Raphilia hurried over. Are you all right? The villager waved a hand. A lingering cold has been spreading lately. I think I caught it from my family, just as I feared. Raphilia's expression darkened. That plague had begun with symptoms much like a cold. Judging from the timing and the symptoms, it had to be the same thing. The villager continued. They say the medicine from the town apothecary works very well. People who've been sick for a long time got better after taking it. Apparently, in other countries, it's considered a cure-all. Raphilia grew thoughtful. The apothecary. Another villager added, I want to buy some to bring home too. There's a line outside the shop. Raphilia let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness. The apothecaries and the herbs were put to proper use. It was a gamble, but they really did use the water quality treatment effectively. If this spreads, the losses should be kept to a minimum. Hearing footsteps, Raphilia turned around. A brown-haired boy was waving as he ran straight toward them. Cease. Surprise flashed across Lydia's eyes. Finn threw himself into Lydia's arms and hugged her tightly. So it really is you. That child was Lydia's younger brother. Lydia looked at Finn with concern. Are you all right? I was so worried about you. You didn't get sick, did you? Finn replied gently. I'm Fina. Some of my friends got sick, but they got better after taking the medicine. More importantly, sis, listen, they're going to build a school in this village. A school? A villager confirmed with a smile. Yes, using government subsidies. The villagers looked at Cyrus gratefully. This is all thanks to Lord Cyrus. Sir Owen started clapping. Just as I thought. Finn called out, Lord Cyrus. Then he said sincerely, thank you very much. Finn bowed deeply, apologizing for what he had done before. Lydia looked on in confusion. Cyrus gently placed a hand on Finn's head. This is all thanks to your courage. Finn looked up, his eyes shining. Cyrus added gently, and thank you as well. Under the moonlight, the castle glowed brightly, the night quiet and beautiful. Back in her room, Raphilia let out a long breath and leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. It took the whole day, but what a wonderful day it was. Lydia must be with her brother now. Since she won't see him for a week, I suppose she won't be lonely. Still, that means one problem has been solved. On a day like this, I almost want to celebrate. Raphilia's gaze swept across the shelf and finally settled on a bottle of wine. She stood and walked toward it. For a special day, open it together with Lord Cyrus. That was what they had said. But perhaps I can open it myself. After all, Lord Cyrus and I never really get the chance to dine together. A knock suddenly sounded at the door. Startled, Raphilia said, Come in. The door opened. Cyrus stood there. Raphilia looked surprised. Lord Cyrus? Is something the matter? Cyrus lowered his gaze, his fingers touching his lips. Nothing. He fell silent, simply looking at her. Raphilia tilted her head in confusion. Cyrus slowly lowered his hand to rest on her shoulder. Looking straight at Raphilia, he spoke softly. Would you have dinner with me tonight? Raphilia's eyes widened slightly, a flash of surprise crossing her face. She froze. The bottle of wine she had planned to enjoy alone stood quietly on the table. Raphilia raised her glass. You worked hard today. Cyrus gave a small nod. He lifted his glass in return. Cheers. Raphilia took a sip of the red wine, and delight flashed in her eyes. This is from the tea party. It's quite good. Cyrus picked up the bottle and refilled her glass. I think so too. Raphilia closed her eyes, enjoying the rich aroma of the wine, a smile spreading across her face. Cyrus speared a bite of food, his gentle gaze falling on her through the table setting. The sight of the two of them seated across from each other was warm and harmonious. Raphilia set down her knife and fork and looked at him sincerely. Thank you for indulging my selfishness today. I am truly grateful. Thanks to you, I was able to see how hard you work for the people, Prince Cyrus. It was a wonderful day. Cyrus set down his utensils. Don't say that. I'm the one who owes you. Raphilia looked puzzled. You've helped me many times. How could that be? Cyrus explained, because you brought up the water issue, it was resolved so quickly, and that opened the door to solving other problems as well. Raphilia smiled faintly. You were the one who made it all happen, Prince Cyrus. I really didn't do much. Cyrus fell silent, his gaze deepening. He recalled his years in the tower. That was just after I'd lost my mother, when I had completely given up on myself. My loneliness only grew. I caused Alf endless trouble and even took out my frustration on Owen, whom I rarely saw. But you, Raphilia? Cyrus looked at her steadily. The times you came to visit me at the tower meant more to me than I can say. Those innocent letters and flowers, free of any malice, soothed the darkness in my heart. I am sincerely grateful to you. Raphilia listened quietly. After a moment, she asked softly about your mother. Was she ill? Cyrus lowered his eyes. Yes. All I could do was watch her weaken day by day. My father never went to see her even once. He didn't even provide the treatment she should have received. His voice sank lower. Even so, my mother never once blamed him. She never complained about me, the cursed child. She never complained about my father either. Not until the very end. Cyrus gripped his knife tightly, his knuckles turning pale. Then he suddenly came back to himself and looked at Raphilia. I'm very sorry. I didn't mean to say all that. Raphilia's eyes were full of tenderness. She answered softly, your mother truly loved you, Prince Cyrus, and you loved her just as deeply. Her voice faltered for a moment, trembling slightly. Those days must have been terribly hard for you. Cyrus cut into his meat. This isn't good. I only meant to invite you to dinner as thanks, and instead I've made the mood awkward. Raphilia raised her glass. And no, that's not it. I'm glad to hear about your mother. Cyrus looked at her in surprise. You are? Raphilia's eyes filled with tears, which slipped down her cheeks. More importantly, Cyrus noticed something was wrong. What is it? Raphilia shut her eyes, her tears flowing harder. Please, don't say it. Don't say you're cursed. Please don't. Cyrus froze. His breath caught. I haven't even finished one glass yet. So this is what happens with the rest. Raphilia suddenly stood up, bracing both hands on the table. Prince Cyrus is a remarkable man. You always think of the people, even sacrificing sleep and place the kingdom first. There is no one more suited to become king than you. Cyrus was overwhelmed by her force. Hey, Raphilia leaned toward him, her gaze utterly unwavering. I promise your curse will be lifted. You will be happy, Prince Cyrus. I swear it. Cyrus tried to stop her. Rafi, enough, but Raphilia suddenly exclaimed, Prince Cyrus. A radiant smile bloomed across her face. That's the first time you call me Rafi. Cyrus was at a loss. Owen always calls you that, so it just slipped out. Raphilia let out a soft laugh. That really makes me. Her body swayed, and her words slurred. That's so hap. Raphilia toppled forward. She collapsed onto the table, completely unconscious. Cyrus stared at Raphilia lying there. He fell into a long silence, then raised a hand to his forehead and muttered in disbelief, You've got to be kidding me. Cyrus rose to his feet, his shadow stretching across the ornate floor. Bending down, he carefully scooped the sleeping Raphilia into his arms. His movements were gentle and steady as he carried her across the room toward the bedroom. He laid Raphilia down carefully on the bed and pulled the blanket over her, then turned to leave. But as Cyrus turned away, he stopped. Looking back at Raphilia on the bed, he walked over and sat down beside her. His fingertips lightly brushed her cheek, tracing the tears that had not yet dried. Prince Cyrus, your curse. I will be the one to break it. In her sleep, Raphilia let out an unconscious little murmur. It feels nice. Cyrus sat there quietly, letting her lean against him without saying a word. He raised a hand and gently stroked her hair with astonishing tenderness. Sitting on the edge of the bed, Cyrus looked down at the sleeping Raphilia, covering half his face with one hand in embarrassment. Other than in front of me, you shouldn't drink in front of anyone. Sunlight poured through the curtains, filling the whole room. Raphilia held her forehead as the misery of a hangover swept over her. I hope this tea helps a little. She sat quietly on the sofa with a teacup in her hands. Prince Cyrus must have been terribly alarmed. Raphilia turned toward the approaching Cyrus and lowered her head slightly. I fell asleep in the middle of things last night. I'm truly very sorry. Cyrus stopped in front of her. How much do you remember? Raphilia kept her head down. I remember the story about your mother. Did I say anything rude? Cyrus looked at her expressionlessly. Oh, Raphilia noticed something and lifted her head, leaning toward his face. You have dark circles under your eyes. Didn't you sleep well? Cyrus turned his face aside. And whose fault do you think that is? His tone was stern. From now on, if you drink, you may do so only in your own room or in front of me. Raphilia lowered her head and replied quietly, yes. I understand. Left alone, she touched her lips with her fingertips. Just what rude thing did I say? But that wine really was delicious. Raphilia sank into thought. A knock sounded at the door, and she turned to answer it. Raphilia opened the door to find a noble woman in splendid attire standing there. You are. Raphilia snapped to attention and quickly bowed. Your Majesty the Queen. Why are you here? The Queen held a black fan over half her face. I've come to say a few words to you, because lately you seem to have been overstepping yourself. Raphilia looked bewildered. Why, Your Majesty? What do you mean? The queen's eyes were cold, accompanying Cyrus on inspections, helping him with his work. And not only that, I hear you've even meddled in national policy. Raphilia hurried to defend herself. And no, I wouldn't call it meddling. She faltered. Does even that count? The queen gave a cold laugh, her eyes narrowing above the folded fan as she leaned closer to Raphilia. I can sense your eagerness to claim credit. How vulgar. Raphilia's eyes wavered. That isn't true. It's not like that. The queen straightened and snapped silence. Her gaze was full of contempt. The fact that you keep talking back is proof enough that you know nothing of proper decorum. Raphilia lowered her eyes. I'm deeply sorry. The queen turned her face aside. Cyrus is just as disgraceful. The two of you truly are a perfect pair. If you pull any more tricks, I will have you accused without hesitation. Remember my words. Grace stepped forward and gave a small bow. Please accept my deepest apologies for the intrusion. Your Majesty, Lord Cyrus is devoting himself to improving poor regions and developing infrastructure. He is easing the people's anxieties and their distrust of the kingdom, bringing positive change to the nation. Surely you would not wish to be driven from the castle by rebellion. The queen's eyes shifted slightly. Grace. Grace turned toward Raphilia, and Lady Raphilia, as well, has been acting out of a desire for the kingdom's peace and prosperity, has she not? Raphilia hurriedly nodded. Igriegagis. That's right. I certainly can't say this is my second life. But what Grace said isn't wrong either. The queen sighed softly. Grace, you really are kind. She closed her fan. If a high-ranking ability user like you says so, then I suppose I have no choice but to relent. Grace lowered her eyes. Your Majesty, whether one has abilities or not is secondary. What matters is a person's resolve, isn't it, Lady Raphilia? Raphilia forced a smile. She couldn't exactly say, but for someone like me, who has no abilities, that isn't secondary at all. Even so, Lady Grace truly is admirable. Even in front of the queen, she remained firm. The queen also seems to think highly of her. She truly understands affairs of state and Lord Cyrus's intentions. A maid hurried over. Pardon me, but a guest has arrived. The queen turned away. Then I shall stop here for today. She departed with her attendants. Raphilia looked at Grace and said softly, Teach, thank you very much, Lady Grace. Grace smiled faintly. Think nothing of it. Raphilia looked at her in confusion. Perhaps Lady Grace, you came here for some reason as well? Grace replied, yes. Might I have a little of your time? Raphilia came in carrying a tea tray. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. My maid has gone back to her hometown to visit family. Grace accepted the teacup. No, please don't trouble yourself on my account. Thank you. She took a sip. Raphilia looked at Grace sitting opposite her, her thoughts churning. Could this be the classic formal confrontation with the mistress? If Lydia were here, she would surely make a scene. Seen up close, she was truly beautiful and elegant. Beautiful, intelligent, and saintly. Someone who enjoyed the absolute trust of both the people and the royal family. Though Raphilia didn't know the details, she had heard Grace's family had served the royals for generations, and Grace herself was involved in state affairs. No wonder Lord Cyrus had been drawn to her. Grace set down her teacup. Lady Raphilia. Raphilia came back to herself. Yes. Grace's gaze sharpened. You know about Prince Cyrus's condition, don't you? I saw you leaving the tower. Raphilia stiffened. Yes. Grace lowered her eyes. I thought so. So you were seen. I truly hadn't noticed at all. Grace began, I believe Prince Cyrus has already told you. Ever since he left the tower, I have been using my ability on him. All this time, Raphilia's pupils trembled. Grace closed her eyes, and a soft light radiated from her body. My family has served the royal house for generations, protecting them with barriers and guardian magic. I consider it a great honor. That is what my family exists for. Raphilia fell silent. Wait, this is the first I've heard of it. I knew someone had been using suppression magic on him, but I didn't know it was you, Lady Grace. So when he showed withdrawal symptoms, you stayed by his side to keep him from losing control. Is that so? Grace opened her eyes. But Lady Raphilia, there is something I must tell you. That is why I came today. Lady Raphilia, you have underestimated the power of Prince Cyrus's curse. In that condition, entering the tower is unthinkable. I can protect myself with guardian magic, but for someone with no means of self-protection, it is extremely dangerous. Especially for someone like you, Lady Raphilia. A nuisance. Those words echoed in Raphilia's mind. Grace lowered her gaze. Forgive me, as one without abilities. I don't think you should enter the tower. She held out her hand, and a ring glimmered faintly. This is the same ring Prince Cyrus wears. It allows me to sense his physical condition. If anything unusual happens, I will go to him immediately. Please do not worry. Raphilia clenched her skirt tightly in both hands. I understand. Of course. Of course I know I have no power. Lady Grace is the one truly suited to stand by Prince Cyrus's side. That is precisely why I'm struggling so much. Grace rose to her feet. I love and revere Prince Cyrus with all my heart. If I were granted the honor of continuing to serve him, it would be my greatest happiness. Raphilia listened in silence, saying nothing. Unfinished tea remained on the table as Raphilia cleaned the room alone. Grace's words echoed in her head. I sincerely love Prince Cyrus. I hope he will allow me to remain by his side. Wasn't that just her roundabout way of forcing me to acknowledge their relationship? Otherwise, she would have had no reason to say such things. There is no one in this world better suited to Prince Cyrus than Lady Grace. Her popularity, beauty, character, and most importantly, she was a high-ranking ability user who could control Cyrus with magic, and I could do nothing. Raphilia lowered her head, shadows covering her face. The right thing to do is probably to go through with the divorce and let Prince Cyrus rule the country together with Lady Grace. Raphilia turned around. HM? A familiar figure appeared in the doorway. I'm back, Lady Raphilia. Raphilia's eyes widened in delight. Lydia entered with a smile. Thank you for allowing me time off. Raphilia set down the fire tongs in her hand. It hasn't even been a week yet. Why are you back so soon? Lydia replied, yes. My little brother and the people in the village all seemed fine. Then she straightened her back. And if I'm not here, Lady Raphilia will have to do everything herself. Raphilia looked a little helpless. You can hire another maid, you know. Lydia, even if you are my maid, sometimes I want to do things myself too. Lydia pleaded, then from now on, please don't take my work away from me, all right? Raphilia let out a small laugh. Then Lydia abruptly changed the subject. Oh, right, we passed through a neighboring town on the way here, and it seems colds are spreading there too. A lot of people heard the rumors about our town and came to buy medicine. Raphilia thought for a moment. I see. It's very contagious, so they couldn't contain it within Lydia's town alone. During our patrols, we already distributed herbs to some villages, so it probably won't spread explosively. But some people doubted the medicine's effectiveness and refused to take it. A few days ago, one man's condition worsened. He developed a high fever and a rash, and in the end, he died. Goodness, Raphilia murmured softly. Lydia picked up a bouquet and went to find flowers in the conservatory to place in a vase. Sunlight poured through the glass dome, filling the greenhouse with life. After receiving the key from Cyrus, I planted some herbs here, hoping they might become a miracle cure. But getting every patient to take them will probably be difficult. All I can do is pray the epidemic doesn't spread any further. Lord Owen appeared outside the glass door and waved to her. Raphilia noticed him. She could hardly leave him standing outside, so she opened the door. Lord Owen greeted her with a smile. Rafi, long time no see. That last inspection trip was almost like a vacation. It was fun. Raphilia corrected him. Lord Owen, it was not nearly as easy as a vacation. Owen hurriedly defended himself. No, that's not what I meant. I mean, when we were riding in the carriage there, we had such a good time talking about the food at the castle, didn't we? Though on the way back, you fell asleep. Raphilia gave an awkward smile. Yes, haha. I really am sorry about that. By the way, when we got off the carriage, Prince Cyrus reminded me not to let other people see my sleeping face so casually, especially not men. Lord Owen suddenly broke into a violent coughing fit. Raphilia quickly stepped forward to support him. Lord Owen, are you all right? He waved a hand. Sorry, I've had a bit of a cold since yesterday. He looked around. Come to think of it, it's pretty warm in here. It's especially warm by the entrance. Raphilia reached out to feel his forehead. No, this is bad, Raphilia thought. Could this be? Raphilia hurried toward Owen. Cyrus was standing outside the door. His gaze sharpened. Raphilia said anxiously, this is bad. Lord Owen, you have a fever. Lord Owen looked blank. What? No way, he muttered. Suddenly his body went limp and he fell forward. Lord Owen, Raphilia cried out and caught him. Owen collapsed in her arms, and a large red rash appeared across his chest. These really were the symptoms of the epidemic. Cyrus called out sharply, hey, what are you doing? When Raphilia saw him, it was like seeing a lifeline. Prince Cyrus, your timing is perfect. Please help me. Cyrus looked bewildered. Raphilia and Cyrus stood beside the sickbed. Owen lay on the bed as a physician examined him. The physician removed his stethoscope, his expression grim. I believe his cold has worsened, and his fever is not coming down. I'm quite worried. I've also found some rashes, the physician added. This may be some new type of pollen sickness. The physician turned to Cyrus and Raphilia. To avoid infection, the two of you should leave. Cyrus shielded Raphilia behind him, but she firmly shook her head. I'm Euphina. She looked earnestly at the physician. Please let me stay here and watch over Lord Owen. The physician froze. It must be that plague. He must have been infected during the last inspection. If this continues, Lord Owen will die just like that man did. Raphilia gripped the pouch of herbs tightly. The symptoms are progressing too quickly. He has to take the medicine as soon as possible. She looked at the fresh herbs in the pouch. There was no time to dry them or blend them. The only option was to boil them in water and make him drink it directly. Owen let out a pained sound from the bed. Raphilia bent close to him and soothed him softly. Lord Owen, please hold on. I'll prepare it right away. He struggled to open his eyes, his lips moving faintly. Rafi, Cyrus suddenly spoke. Hey, his voice was cold. It sounds like tonight will be rough, but it's not as though he's going to die this instant, is he? He demanded of Raphilia, knowing there was a risk of infection. Why did you get so close to Lord Owen? Raphilia raised her head. I understand how he feels. Time is short. This isn't the time for this. Cyrus took a step closer, his tone growing harsher. I'm asking you seriously. Raphilia refused to back down. The situation right now is more important. She turned and strode quickly toward the door, leaving Cyrus standing there alone. Cyrus watched Raphilia's retreating back as the door shut in front of him. His jaw tightened. Cyrus suddenly turned and slammed his fist against the cold brick wall. He lowered his head, his fist clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white.